I want to clear my throat. I normally wouldn't do two of these 2 days in a row and ask Ron live, but yesterday in the course of a discussion we were talking about a 14-year-old on trend and got a really good question in the comments while we were live, and I will get to all questions and comments once I do my little spiel thing. Someone wanted to know, are steroids worth it? And I thought, wow, you know what? That is such a good question. I don't want to just give you a little 10-second answer and then move on. That deserves some serious considerations, some little bit of discussion because it's not a simple question. Are steroids worth it? And I put little quotes around that in the title because what is worth it? The phrase "worth it" can mean different things to different people. So I guess let's look at it first financially. Are they worth it financially? Are they going to help you make more money? Well, if you are a Major League Baseball player, pro football player, pro basketball player, if you're a professional athlete who's getting paid a ton of money to perform in games as an athlete, and steroids are going to give you that edge and keep you on that field playing, playing through injuries, playing when you're tired, just making it possible for you to be that incredible player that's worth millions of dollars a year. Some of these top professional athletes, they're getting multi-year contracts that are $100 million, $200 million. Bodybuilders, we don't have that kind of money in our sport, okay? People look to Mr. Olympia because that's our biggest show. And a Mr. Olympia champ gets $400,000 like Rami did back in December when he won. $400,000 to a lot of us, that's a lot of money, right? You could, in a lot of places, you can buy a house for $400,000. But if you would do the risk benefit ratio, you're risking your health. You are putting your health on the line, especially competing at the highest levels in pro bodybuilding. There's a lot of drugs involved, and you can try to be as healthy as you want, but it's not a healthy thing to do. You're taking a chance with your health, and Mr. Olympia is the only one making that kind of money. Trust me. Most of the pro bodybuilders, most people with IFBB pro cards, don't make any money from bodybuilding. They'll never make money from placing in a show because there's so many pros now. Think about it this way. The highest prize money is for open men, and then all the prize money after that comes way, way down. So like Rami got 400 grand for winning the Olympia. Good thing I had this here because I wasn't even going to reference it. So Rami got $400,000 for winning the Mr. Olympia. Sean Clarita wins the 212 Olympia same night, gets 50 grand. He gets 1/8 of that. Chris Bumstead wins Classic Physique. He gets 30 grand, which 30 into 400, I don't know, that's a lot less. So you can see, we go bikini. We're not gonna worry about the women's divisions for the purpose of this discussion. But if you're trying to justify steroid use as a bodybuilder because you're going to become a professional and you're going to make all this money, the money you make from competing is very likely not even going to cover your drug expenses because, especially unless you get some sponsor or company that's going to help you out and give you free product, especially the growth hormone. Growth hormone is what's prohibitively expensive to a lot of people. Because it's a good couple $100 if you're using the amounts that the highest level bodybuilders use. It's a couple $100 every week, so you're looking at about $1,000 a month, maybe more. Some people, depending on how much they use, could cost them up to $2,000 a month. So now you're looking at 40. You're almost looking at $50,000 a year just in your growth hormone. Steroids, they're not super cheap, but they're not expensive like that, not at all. So forget about the finances. Let's put all that aside because I think most people understand that it's not worth it financially to take steroids and risk your health and other things like that for money when the money is very low. If you're in some sport where you're being paid huge money, all questions at the end, huge money, then you can justify it. You can say, well, if I was going to risk my health, at least I was making $10 million a year and I was able to, buy homes from everyone in my family, and I could had all my kids' college money or future kids' college money put away, and I'm set for life. That's a different story. And then you could say, well, it was worth the risk because I was getting paid extravagantly. So, but let's look at the other side of it, which is the most common side for most of you. You're thinking my health and my longevity, how long I'm going to live. Can you put a price on that? And are you willing to take a risk to shorten your life or to give yourself serious health problems? If people ask me, were steroids worth it, Ron? I can say for me they were, because I haven't had any major health problems. Knock on wood. I get checked up all the time, but I'm very, very lucky, and I know this. And I make a point of saying, don't assume that's going to be you too. I hope those of you using steroids, I hope you don't have any problems, but a lot of you are going to have problems. You're going to have heart problems. You're going to have problems with your kidneys. Maybe if your liver, if you don't check your enzymes, you can have all kinds of health problems. And some of you would die young. You would have heart attacks. I have a lot of people I've known who are my age or even younger, and they're dead now. And it was from steroids. You can say, well, they use rec drugs, or they did this or that, or they had a pre-existing. Sometimes there's other mitigating factors, but a lot of times these were clean living people. They just love bodybuilding and they love steroids, and they didn't take time off steroids, and they didn't get checked up. They didn't know what was going on with their heart, and they had hardened arteries, and they had calcium, and they dropped dead of a heart attack at age 40, 42. God willing, I'll be 52 in September. I haven't abused tons of steroids, huge amounts, grams and grams, but I ran many cycles, probably at least 25 cycles over the past 20 some odd years that were a gram and a half, sometimes even 2 grams, which, compared to what you're hearing about mega cycles, that's nothing scary. But 2 grams of steroids a week for like 16 weeks, that's a lot. That's a lot of drugs. That would have a negative impact on most people's health markers for sure, and their blood work, their liver values, their kidneys, things like that. Taking time off, which I do recommend, your body gets a chance to heal and regenerate. But for me, I can say that because I've been fortunate, but a lot of people won't be fortunate like that. And you don't know where you're going to, if you've never used steroids, you don't know where you're going to fit into this equation. Are you going to have serious health problems? Or are you going to be one of the lucky ones like me? Are you willing to take that chance? It's a roll of a dice. It's Russian roulette. You don't know. Why did I start using steroids? I just wanted more. I wasn't satisfied. I maxed myself out naturally, or pretty close to it, after 13 years of training. 14? 14 years of training, 13, doesn't matter. And I was a very, very holier than thou natural. I was proud to be natural. I made a point to let people know I was natural, like a lot of people still do, and nobody cared. But something I read, and it actually angered me at the time, it was a British writer. I don't think it was the late Paul Borison. It was someone else of that era in the 90s. That was Mick. What was Mick's name? I remember distinctly his name was Mick. He was a really funny writer. But he said something like, why use steroids? He goes, well, why would I want to be natural and train and not grow? And that got me mad, but it got me mad because it was true. Because once you've made a lot of gains naturally, it becomes very, very hard to make any more gains naturally. That goes for saying about any kind of gains. But if you've been training for a good 10 years naturally or so, 15 years, you've been eating right, you've been getting enough rest, you've been training really hard, getting stronger and stronger, you're pretty much almost maxed out. I know there's someone going to say, I'm 70 and I'm natural. Whatever, dude. Someone always has to chime in and say, well, I'm 50 and I'm still making gains, and I've been training since I was 15. And sir, if you were 50 and you were still making gains from age 15 all the way through, you'd be like 600 pounds ripped. So cut it out. Don't even go there, because there's always somebody to post something like that. Always. But you know what? Good for you. If you are still making gains, or you think you're making gains, that's great. Or maybe you get to a point where you maxed out naturally and you're cool with that, and you can be. That's fine. I wasn't, but that was my personal choice. If you get to a point where you've built a really good physique naturally, or the best physique you can build, and you can be satisfied with that, then that's it. Keep training. You're probably just going to maintain that. You might make some little more gains, but long term, you'll be better off for reasons of health for sure. You're going to live longer. You're going to be healthier. There's no doubt in my mind. But you might want more than that. You might want to see, what would I look like with some drugs? And I talked about in other videos where I just wanted to do one cycle. I was just going to do one cycle, put some muscle on, see what happens, and then I'd go back to being natural. And of course, that didn't happen. It doesn't happen to most people once they try it, because once you experience what steroids can do for you with the gains, and you see the new size, and that you're getting stronger every day, you know what? It's fun. It makes training so much more fun to know that what you're doing in the gym is going to yield results. And I'm not trying to say that training naturally doesn't give you results. It definitely does in the beginning, and you can keep making natural progress and gains for many years, but it's going to be very slow going. Steroids accelerate that process. They take you past your genetic boundaries as far as how big you are going to get. So if somebody started out training at 120 pounds and they get to a point where they're 185 pounds naturally, pretty good condition, but they just can't seem to get much bigger than that. Or let's even give them the credit. Let's say they get to 200, okay, 200. So they went from 120 to 200. They're probably never going to get any bigger than that. And maybe that's cool. Maybe they're fine with that. That's as big as they want to get, and they don't want to get any bigger if it means taking these chemicals and putting these things in their body, changing their physiology and risking their health. A lot of people are cool with that. And you know what? God bless you. Keep doing what you're doing. You do you. But a lot of other people will be at that 200-pound point where they've been training naturally for maybe 10 to 15 years, and they say, oh man, I really want to see if I can get bigger than this. So they start steroids. A few cycles later, they're 225. Like, wow, this is great. And, it'll slow us down. The gains will always slow down. They're not going to be like 500 pounds or anything, but they will allow you to keep making gains for many more years past the point where naturally you were done. So is it worth it? It's up to the individual, and only you can answer that question. Is it worth it for you, your values, what priorities and values you have, and how important is your health to you? Are you willing to take a chance? Because steroids are dangerous. I would never ever say they're completely safe. Take as much as you want. Juice your skulls out, kids. You'll be okay. No, they do have their risks. The risks are well documented, and there are plenty of people who will go on we have records of dying or having many serious health problems. And then there are other people that don't. Other people get lucky. Um, I'm trying to think what steroids have done badly for me. I if I can think of one thing, maybe I have internal organ growth and I have a larger gut, and not from GH. I wasn't using GH, but I do think force feeding yourself and stretching your stomach out for many years and taking steroids at the same time, I suspect that steroids can help the muscles in your internal organs. Your stomach is muscle tissue. It's smooth muscle. It's not skeletal muscle like your pecs or your biceps. But I do believe that can grow. Spent a lot of money. I've had scares where I've had infections, but I lucked out again. I've had a couple times. I think I can remember 3 distinct times when I did shots in my leg, which never, ever, ever shoot my quads again, ever. And I got infections where the whole leg turned red and I was limping around. Luckily, I got very lucky. Other people aren't so lucky. They have to have abscesses surgically removed, which means they take a big scoop out of wherever you injected, your delt, your quad, because it's infected tissue. They have to take it out. But no. So, all right, now guys, I will get to your questions. But in the meantime, I urge you to check out the new video we put up with Kevin Leveroni's new show, MD Muscle Report videos. Okay, guys, bear with me here. Okay, so let's go to the questions and comments. Starting with, at the top, we have Conrad Murray. Yo, okay, yo. Thank you, Conrad. Thank you. Great question. Yeah, I can't remember who asked it yesterday, but it was a good question. What about HT from China? I hear mixed reviews on that. Some people will swear it's like half the price or less from a GH. But I have some people will tell you it's just as good, it's the same concentration, same quality. Other people will tell you no, it's garbage. Personally, I would not use it. I would only want to use genuine Pfizer or Genentropin, whoever. Pharmaceutical grade growth hormone, which is harder to get. It's very expensive, but it's legit by a big pharma company, perfectly sterile. If it says it's 100 IUs in a kit, it's 100 IUs. The Chinese stuff, I don't know if they're accurate with that. Who are you going to complain to? Someone in China? If it's not, it's crazy cheap. It's cheap in the UK compared to many other countries. Haha. Yeah, I've heard GH is a lot cheaper some places. Is test enough for a beach body? For a beach body, you don't even need steroids. When you think about beach body, I don't think about a big guy. I think about an athletic look. You know, wider shoulders, small waist, and low body fat. You don't have to have a lot of size to have a really good beach body. I've seen plenty of guys at the beach over the years I've envied because they had just great physiques, and they weren't. I could tell they weren't on drugs or anything. Most of them were genetically superior. They had great genetics. But no, you don't need test. A beach body is kind of like men's physique was supposed to be. The men's physique division, they've certainly gotten a lot more muscular and enhanced looking over the past few years for sure. But originally, men's physique, and you could see the early champs, they weren't huge, they weren't shredded. It wasn't a geared up look. So no, I don't think you need any drugs for that. Just train hard, eat right, and you can have muscles. Women, if you're trying to impress girls, guys, I can assure you that most women are not attracted to extreme muscle size. They're just not. Or extreme muscle definition with the veins and striations. They find that gross. They find that disgusting. Most women, if the guy's athletic, you can see his abs. He's got some cool hair. He's got game. He's in. Versus, some guy built like a gorilla. Usually it just intimidates them. They think it's gross. And as I said yesterday in the video, there's a subculture. The women I know in my industry, most of them, they do go for that juiced up look. But this is like 1% of the female population we're talking about. It's a very, very strange elite little group. Who is the most talented pro? Vigar Selgenis. Who's the most talented pro within marketing currently, in your opinion, beside the Mr. O's? So who's the most marketable pro? I'd probably go with like Chris Bumstead. I think he's got a look. He's a good-looking guy. Good looking. He's young. He's not so big that it's scary to anybody. I think he had a contract with Gymshark. I don't know if he still does, the clothing company. Whereas Big Ronnie couldn't get a Gymshark deal. Of course, I think he's got gorilla wear because he looks like a big silverback gorilla. Yeah, Bumstead. That look, the men's physique and the classic physique guys, they definitely have a much more marketable look than the open pros. You could put them on commercials or try to sell some product and it would work versus some 290-pound shredded beast. Jay Cutler. What about Jay? I don't know. Demir Albasic. Good Serbian, Croatian kind of name, I guess. How can you tell where you get gear? No, I cannot. No, I cannot. It's online. I wouldn't get it that way, but a lot of people get it online. A lot of people get it from somebody at their gym where they just know. If you know a body, it's one of these things where it's a little club and you kind of have to be in it to know the right people and have the hookup, as we say. So you see bodybuilders at your gym that are on gear, obviously they're getting it from somewhere. If you become friendly enough with them and they can trust you and don't think you're a cop trying to set them up or something, eventually they'll probably help you out and they'll give you their source, give up their source. But I am not going to do that, guys. Sorry. I think you're right. Thank you. I trained for Mr. Rami. Good name. I trained for 10 years naturally. Now I'm 30. Yeah. CC, do you miss the old days of real gear companies like Steris, Sharing, Steril, Syntex? Do you believe the gear was really better back in the 90s? It was because there was a lot less fake gear going around. There was fake gear, trust me. Even in the 90s, people act like the 90s was this glorious. I can tell you when I was so stupid because I used to just jump and buy things without doing any kind of research. And the internet was just starting. There was very little. It was a lot tougher to research things back then than it is now. But I remember distinctly going to Tijuana because I lived in the Los Angeles area. I got stuff a couple times down there in the pharmacies, and I remember buying a few bottles of this. It said Organon Deca, and I was like, oh boy, Organon Deca. And then I got it back, and I saw. I think it just happened to be that month. Muscle Media 2000 had some column or article that showed real Organon Deca, and said there's look for this and the fake, and it said fakes often do this and that, and I had fakes. So what was it? It was probably vegetable oil. There was more Deca in that. But the 90s did have a lot more pharmaceutical grade gear going around, made by legit pharmacies. Now we have all underground gear for the most part, unless you know somebody that's on TRT and they're not using their test and they sell it off. I have heard of that. A lot of the GH that's going around, the pharma GH is sold by like AIDS patients that need money, so they're not even using their GH. They're selling it to bodybuilders for big bucks. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the gear is that much worse today. There's a lot more underground stuff, and I think a lot of the underground stuff is good. It's legit. It's dosed correctly, and a lot of it isn't. William Llewellyn has roid tests, which will tell you what the drug you have is, if it's actually tren or masteron or whatever you tested in the kit. And I think he just came out with a follow-up product where you can actually get the potency, which to me that's equally, if not more important, to know. This DECA says it's 300 milligrams per milliliter. Is it really 300, or is it 200, or is it 70, or is it 0? I guess 0 would show up in the original roid test. So I think it's roidtest.com is the site for that. I've never gotten one. Okay. Do I miss the old days? Mr. Rami, again, I started to use steroid little and my body is changing fast. Yeah. I mean, people would use steroids if they didn't work and work well. I say that all the time. They work. Do steroids prevent osteopenia and osteoporosis? I don't think so. You need calcium. You need bone density. If you have enough calcium in your diet and you're, doing resistance training, I think you're doing everything you need to do. I don't think. Don't quote me because I have to say this all the time. I'm not a doctor. I don't have MD after my name. I don't have extensive medical knowledge, so I'm not really sure about that one. Look into it. So Mr. Rami again. This is not real Ron. This is someone else. Yes, worth it, but use it safe and do PCT and take off time. Your natural tests will get back. Sure, some supplement vitamin. Yeah, eventually your test won't come back. That's another thing I feel the need to point out. Once you've done enough cycles, even if you take time off, even if you do your PCT, eventually you will shut down your HPTA, hypothalamus pituitary axis. You will shut it down, and your body's going to produce very little, if any, testosterone. But if you're moderate with your cycles, you take time off, I don't think the PCT makes a difference. If you do those things, you can greatly extend that period of time. So, like that kid on tren who's 14, if he keeps it up, he's going to need to be on TRT by the time he's like 18. Whereas, a lot of gear users like myself, tends to be like if you started I started at 27, but most guys start somewhere between around 22 to 25. When I talk to people, that's usually when they start. Usually they're not looking for PCT until they're like 35, late 30s, maybe 40. Okay. No, stay natural, yeah. Jerry Iannuzzi, yeah. Like I said, if it's a personal decision, it's up to you, it's your choice, and you have to know what you're getting into. Like a lot of these kids, they don't know what they're getting into. They don't know the risks. They don't know what could happen. You need to know exactly what the potential hazards are going to be. And then you're walking in with all that knowledge. Whereas, it's like giving someone a dangerous job and not telling them it's dangerous and just sending them in. It's not right. You need to know what you're up against before you walk in. Is it true that once you start a cycle, you'll be on lifelong TRT? No. If you're very moderate and you only do a couple cycles, you probably never need TRT. You're doing more harm every time you do a cycle. The longer you're on cycle, the larger your doses, the more harm you're doing to that HPTA, and the greater your chances are of having to be on TRT, of shutting down your own production. So it's one of those things. One cycle is nothing. Yeah. Someone did claim yesterday that one D-ball cycle said has ruined his morning wood for a year, but I didn't get an answer back as to, does that mean he couldn't get erections like when he was with a girl or when he wanted to, or just didn't wake up with an erection? Because, waking up with an erection is great for, it's a good marker, I think, of the circulation and health and all that, but I don't know if it's necessary. Story of the red infected leg. Yeah. You know what? 2 of those times that I had the infected leg, and I know there was I'm sure there was a third time, but the 2 times I remember, I had to help people move on that day. I had to help my wife's late grandmother move the first time. It was pouring rain, and I was there with my brother-in-law, and she had a hospital bed we had to move. Those things that, they go up and down. Those things are heavy as heck. So it was a bad day. Second time it happened, I had to move my son into UMaine. Yeah. He was going to college, and we had to move all his stuff. And he was on the top of, how many sets, how many floors? It was like a third or fourth floor. Was there no in that building? I don't think that building had an elevator. Anyway, it was bad. Yeah, sorry. I don't want to talk about the fact. Any supplements suggested for a beginner? Creatine monohydrate, very well proven. Whey protein isolate for your post-workout shake. I would have something sugary. I have 2 Rice Krispie treats with mine. You could also have. I use Isotope by Redcon One. That's my whey protein isolate. So I would do creatine. That I would do a multivitamin, just because it's a nice insurance policy. Multivitamin mineral. And if you really feel, most people do like pre-workout. I don't think it's necessary. Like I remember Evan Senapani saying, if I need to drink something to make me want to work out, I must not want to work out very much. It's not to make me want to work out. It's the energy. It's just to be able to have that stamina, especially if you're training for an hour and a half or so. So that's my beginner supplements. I would just go with a multivitamin mineral, creatine, whey protein, and a pre-workout. That's it. If you need the pre-workout. You might even find that a good strong cup of coffee is good enough for you. A lot of people, they work out after coffee. It's all the main ingredient most of these pre-workouts is caffeine anyway. Just to let you know. This guy Mr. Rami answered my question. I'm glad we're thinking similarly. Do you know anyone that's used EQ and DECA for joint problems and connective tissue disorders? I'm not aware of equipoise being valuable for joint problems and connective tissue disorders. DECA, very, very well documented. Everyone that I know, and personally I can say the same, you do have a little less joint pain. I think it's got to do with the aldosterone in the water. There's more synovial fluid. There's more cushioning in there from water when you use DECA. I don't think it's not curing anything. It's in the long term, it's not making anything better. But while you're on it, your joints do feel better. You have less joint pain. But I don't think anything can cure any supplement, anything you take. Maybe like stem cell therapy would be the only thing that could really cure the issues going on in like a bad shoulder. Flex Lewis just went down to Colombia to get stem cells in his bad shoulder. I think it's working very well. I think I heard Kuklo just had that done too. Remember Sten, $2 per ampule in Mexico, says Andy Elgin. I never got Sten, but you know what? The first steroids ever bought in Mexico was Tijuana. It was late 96. I was 27. Was Sustanon. And Sustanon used to come in these kits. What I mean by that is it would just be one dose, 250 milligrams. It would have the glass part of the needle with the Sustanon in it, and they would have the needle separately. You just had to put them together, but they came, sealed up. They were legit. They weren't faked. It was 250 milligrams. The only issue that looking back is they had an 18 gauge needle. It was a long needle. It was like, I want to say it was maybe 2. It was at least 1.5 inches. It might have been 2 inches, but it was 18 gauge. So with needles that you inject, the smaller the number, the bigger the hole. Most people will inject with 25 gauge. That's what I've been using for many years now. 30 gauge is tiny. That's an insulin needle. But 18 gauge leaves a big hole. It's like a harpoon. You're like sticking yourself with a freaking whale harpoon. So no, I never use Sten. Is there a difference? Koala protein. Is there a difference between Koala protein? That's your name. Sorry. Is there a difference between steroid user training and natural training? Everybody trains hard. You get better results from steroids. They help you recover better. So I think you can recover from your training much better on steroids than you would without. So if you're training, you do have to pay much more attention to recovery. So wouldn't do a ton of volume. I wouldn't train every day. I would probably train no more than 5 days a week. Probably 4 would be even better. Get plenty of sleep because you don't have these chemicals that are aiding in your recovery. So yeah, that's the main difference. As far as the actual training itself, I would just reduce the volume. It's not like you would do different exercises or anything like that. We all train the same, guys. We all do the same things. Justin, VVS DECA helps for my joint issue. Yeah, a lot of people would agree. Jerry Russell, is it true that if I take test E at 19, I would completely shut down my natural test production, even if I PCT properly? Yeah, Jerry, eventually you would. I don't know when that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen like, next week or even within a year or so, but Eventually, if you use steroids long enough, you'll shut down the production, and nobody can tell you. Nobody can tell you how long that's going to take or what dose is going to do it. Everybody's different. Some people are very unlucky and they shut down their own production pretty fast without even using a ton of drugs, whereas other people can use them for much longer. In my case, I didn't even do. I never really was big on PCT, but I did time off between cycles in my early years. I would, if I was on 12 weeks or 16 weeks, I would always take off equal amount of time before I started up again. That was my little rule, and I think it worked well because I didn't need TRT until I was, God, I can't remember the exact. I wish I could remember. It was 38 or 39. It was one of those, but it was late. I was almost 40. But yeah, I started 27, so it was a good 10 years of pretty constant steroid use. I did have some time in there where I took a year off at one point, but never mind. Ron, have you ever had high creatinine levels, ALT, AST, blood levels? Yes, all three. Creatinine, we all have high creatinine levels from the muscle damage, from our training. Those byproducts, the waste products leak into your kidneys and all that. So, and my liver values have been off. Anytime you're using an oral steroid, your liver values will be very high. I remember distinctly in 2002, I had my yearly physical scheduled with my doctor at the time. I think I only saw this guy once, and I'll tell you why. And I got blood work done. I should have known it was a terrible time to get blood work because I had been using a lot of oral Winstrol. The only time I ever used oral Winstrol, I think, was for that show in 2002, where I had the blonde tips. If you check out my Instagram, Ron Harris Muscle, I have a lot of pictures from that show. That was a good look for me. But anyway, my liver values were through the roof, and the doctor thought I had hepatitis. He was horrified. And I went and got blood work again 6 weeks later, and I had been off everything, and levels were back down to where they were supposed to be. But yeah, anytime you're on any kind of oral steroid, even Anavar, anything, they all raise your liver values. People say, well, Anavar's safe, Primobolan's. If you're taking them orally as tablets, capsules, whatever, they will jack up your liver values. The liver is a very regenerative organ. If you do get off the drug, get off the orals and stuff, and give it plenty of time, it will come back to normal health, assuming you didn't get any blood-filled cysts in there. Okay, next one is plenty of great natural bodybuilding organizations. Yeah, as I say, you can stay natural, guys. Absolutely. I don't encourage anyone to stay natural or to use drugs. I just encourage you to do what you feel is best for you, based on your own values. What's important to you? What are you willing to risk? What are your goals? Nobody can answer these questions except for you. Plenty of great. What is it? X-Solid Snake XL. What is best for off-cycle for pros to help with libido? I don't know. Libido, there's all kinds of things that supposedly help with your libido. But if your testosterone is low, you're not going to have much of a libido. That's just it. You need to get your test back up at least to normal ranges. That's one of the things a lot of guys don't like after steroid cycles is on the cycle they had this monster. They could have sex with their girl like 5 times, 6 times a day, like a porn star. They could last forever. They wanted to have sex all the time. They could, they saw any female and they're like, whereas they go off cycle and their test levels crash and their estrogen levels come up, and they could have like a porn star in front of them and maybe they wouldn't even be interested. Imagine that. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Like Forrest Gump would say. Oh boy. Kave, have you ever heard of PRP, platelet-rich plasma for bodybuilders? Not for injury recovery, but for the sight enhancement due to growth factors in PRP. No, I've never heard of anyone doing that. PRP, that's so expensive. I can't imagine anybody doing that. But I guess if you got all kinds of money to burn, no idea if that's effective or not. Mr. Rami says, you were such a great champion, remember from old days. Man, how old are you? Because I've been around a long time. I've been working in this industry since January 1991, so it's now been over 30 years. Whew. Wow. Damn, it's been a long time. Andy Elgang, the gym industries will be more popular investment after this crazy pandemic. Gym industries, it's tough. I've looked into owning a gym, and I've had people approach me over the years about going into business with them and owning a gym, and I'm not that I'm not that hardworking guy that wants to be at a gym from 5 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night every day, because that's as a gym owner, especially in the early days when you're starting the business and getting it going, you need to be there all the time to oversee everything. And eventually you can have, good staff, managers and employees and everything, but still a really good gym owner, he's there a lot, and I wasn't interested in doing that. But I don't know. I don't know if gyms are going to be. I think it's probably hurting. It's going to hurt gyms that so many people invested in so much home training equipment. A lot of people have home gyms now because it's been almost a year now that we've been in this pandemic, right? And so many people have home gyms now that never, or if they might have had just a couple basic things and they really bolstered their home gyms. They went out and bought a lot of stuff over this last year. So a lot of people are never going to go back to gyms. They just see, well, I can just go to my little workout room there, and I don't have to drive anywhere. I can shower here right after. My food's there. I can go to the bathroom, my own bathroom. It's very, very convenient. I personally, and mostly watching this, probably you prefer a big commercial gym with tons of great equipment, other people working hard around you, the music, the atmosphere. Not everybody's like that. Some people just want to get their little quick workout in, get on with their day, or maybe they've already worked and they just want to get their workout done and take a shower, unwind, and then go to sleep. Let's see. Eric WW, how did you get so big shoulders and arms? Well, this is obviously you're trolling me because I know my arms aren't big. My shoulders used to be about twice the size they are now when my shoulder joints were healthy. I need a full replacement of this. I need to remind you guys every time I do this. I have severe pain. That hurts. I can't press free weights anymore with that shoulder. Everything has to be machines. But it was just training hard. I love training shoulders. I still, even though it's not as fun because of the pain and everything, obviously, but for years, man, shoulders were my thing. I loved shoulder training, chest training, leg training, back. I guess I loved everything, but shoulders was fun because I was a really good presser. We're all good. Every one of you is probably really good at least one lift. For me, it was a couple lifts, but one of them was definitely overhead presses with dumbbells or a bar or machines. I could always press a lot of weight overhead. I even remember being like, a young kid, like 19, at a health spa I worked at, and they had like one of those universal things, the multi-stations, and I could do the whole stack on that. Like the only other people there, and I was like about 150 pounds, and the only other people there that could do it were guys who were 50 pounds or more than me, heavier. So it was a lot of heavy training, a lot of laterals, cables, machines, dumbbells, a lot of presses, a lot of dumbbells, seated dumbbell presses. I love those. That was my bread and butter movement. I also did a lot of military presses with the bar, did a lot of machine presses. I did a lot more free weights. Like I said, dumbbell, if I had to say one exercise that was the most responsible for the shoulders that I had, it was seated dumbbell presses, heavy. I still have videos up on my own YouTube channel, Ron Harris Muscle, that I never bothered taking down. There's one that I did toward the end before my shoulder just got really bad. I think it was like 2013 or something. I'd already had an operation, but I was doing 120s for like 14, like nothing, 14 reps, seated with 120 in each hand. Most I ever did was 150s for a couple shitty reps, but I could do good reps with 130s and sometimes 140s. Arms, they were always a struggle for me. They still are. Okay, I'm not gonna answer that. Tony Rod, do I keep creatine on peak week? Yeah, I don't see why it would be a problem because creatine doesn't lead to subcutaneous water retention. Creatine, you're going to see the water inside the muscle cell. You're not going to see water between the muscles and the skin. So there's no issue with that. If it makes you hold water, it's going to have you hold water in the muscles. So that's what you want. You want fuller muscles. Training hard, Eric, that's easy. Oh, he was answering my question. Mikalis Halkusis. Ron, what is your opinion of someone who's looking to compete? Should you do a cycle on a bulk, then go off and then do a cycle on a cut? Well, that's a good question. So if you want to compete, your physique needs to be ready to compete. You need to look like the other people you'll be competing against, roughly. You need to go to a contest. I strongly urge you guys, don't just look online. Go to an actual contest. I know that's very difficult now with the COVID situation, but if you've never competed and you want to compete, go to at least one show and watch it from start to finish. the morning, the judging, and the night, the finals. Watch everything. See how everybody looks. What do they look for? Because you see people show up at contests and they're smooth. There's not a cut in sight. And I'm thinking, this person, they must never have realized that you're supposed to be super lean on a stage, or else hopefully unless there's something wrong with them mentally, they would have gotten in shape. But you need to know if you're at that standard. Do you look like these people? So if you've never competed, you probably want to do like a novice show, a novice class, I should say. See how you would compare to even those people. If you're not ready, keep working hard, and the drugs aren't even an issue here. Keep working hard, whether it's drugs or no drugs, until your physique has enough size, and you have the balance of body parts that the better physiques that are competing, even at the local level, do. Because if you show up for your first show and you have no legs, you have upper body and no legs, trust me, you're not, unless you're the only one in your class, you're going to get your ass kicked. Or if you have no back, you turn around and you look like you've never trained your back. Or if you look like you have, there's not a cut in sight, you're smooth as a baby's butt. You need to know, what are they looking for? What are the judges looking for? What are the standards of bodybuilding competition or men's physique or classic? Whatever it is, you need to look like those people at the level you're going to compete at if you hope to do well. If you don't look anything like that yet, stay in the gym and keep training, keep adding muscle in the right places until. But to say, well, I'm just do one bulk cycle and one cut cycle, that's really, really simplifying matters way too much. Save this video. Yeah, I always save these videos, don't I? William De La Rosa. Oh boy, that's Jonathan De La Rosa's dad. That's Pops De La Rosa. That's where Jonathan got his awesome genetics. Great guy, hard worker. Do you think most, if not all, men will benefit from TRT as they age? Absolutely. 100%. 100%. I think there are some rare men who probably were blessed so that their bodies somehow do keep making adequate testosterone till they die. Those are rare cases. Most men will experience a decline in their testosterone production. You'll feel it, you'll know it, because you'll have less energy, you'll have less sex drive, you lose muscle mass, you lose strength. It's low T. If you have low T, there's no shame. This is 2021. Go to a doctor, tell them what's going on, get your levels tested. If you need TRT, have your doctor put it on. If he won't, get another doctor. There's all kinds of anti-aging clinics and longevity centers. The guy I do a show with every week, not every week anymore, but Anabolic Doc, if you go to testosteronology.com, his website, he works out of Connecticut. He prescribes TRT to men that legitimately need it, either because they're just older and their bodies don't make it anymore, or that they were using steroids for a period of time and their bodies, they shut down their own production. But I do believe, women have been on estrogen therapy and things like that for years, but I think finally the medical industry and society in general is coming around to the fact that, well, men shouldn't have to suffer either. Why would we have to feel worse if we could just get a shot once a week or a gel or whatever and get our levels back and get to feeling better and looking better? Why not? There's no shame in that. There's no problem. It's legitimate. It's a legitimate medical need. It's not as legitimate in the sense of like insulin. If you're diabetic, you're not going to die if if your testosterone is low, but you're not going to feel very good. You're going to feel pretty bad. I don't want to say you're going to feel suicidal or anything, but if you were a young, strong guy and now you have no sex drive and your muscles are shrinking and you're weak, tired, you're not going to be loving life too much, guy, right? Do you think 19 is too young? I do, personally. That's my, I'm a dad too, so obviously I'm a little biased towards that, but I just think you still have at 19, you have a few more really good years where you can get a lot out of your body naturally. Your body's cranking out this testosterone. It's not going to do that forever. By the time you're in your late 20s, early 30s, that testosterone levels from when you were like 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, they're going to be coming down. So I say ride out the gains while your body's making all these hormones for free and safely. It's your own body and your own hormones. That's just my belief. That's why I don't like to see young people, because you only have this brief window of time in your life where your body's making all these hormones by itself in huge amounts. And after that, it's over. It's done. It never goes back to that. Nobody gets younger. It's like your eyesight doesn't get better. Your hearing doesn't get better. You're not going to get, more hair as you get older. You're going to get less. These things this is aging. So yeah, that's that. Joey Z, I'm really enjoying this channel. Different shows. Thank you. Thank you. Please share the videos, guys, if you like them. William De La Rosa. Oh, reason I say this is because eventually your own natural test levels will decline as we age. Yeah, exactly. And why not supplement those medically? It's a difference. TRT is kind of taken on a bad, only because a lot of people abuse. A lot of guys are on steroids and they say, I'm on TRT. You're not on TRT. You're on a cycle. A legitimate TRT is through a doctor, and they just give you enough testosterone to bring you up to normal levels. They're generally going to give you 100 to 200, maybe 250 grams a week. It all depends on how your body responds and what these amounts bring your levels to. But they're not giving you 500 grams a test or 1,000 milligrams a test and 600 milligrams of Deca and Tren. And that's not TRT. That's a cycle. Rad 40. I don't even know what Rad 40 is. Sorry. Plandemic. Too bad. Pavlis Oxidaras. Buying steroids are worth it over the internet. Good source of anabolics. I have no comment because I don't know. The last time I bought steroids over the internet was, wow, well over 15 years ago. Yeah. You're taking a chance getting anything through the mail. So, I'd prefer to get it from someone I knew and trusted, and I could get them in person if possible, if that was an option. That's just me. Let's see. Vic VC once said an interview with you. He never touched any stuff till age of 30. What is your take on that? I don't know if he was 30. You'd have to do some math and see when he was. He turned pro naturally in 1992. I'm sorry, the end of 91. Not sure how old he was. He was late 20s at that point, I think, already. Ronnie got into bodybuilding a little later than most people. He did. So that might be true. He might not have started till he was 30. I don't think Ronnie's a liar. So I would tend to believe that, because once Ronnie did start on them, he put on like tons of muscle and started winning shows where he had never won a show before. Andy Elgin, anabolic doc is pushing the vaccine. You getting yours? Probably not. GH at $2,000 a month, 50 grand a year. Your math is a bit off. My math is always off. I was a brilliant English student in high school, one of the most gifted they'd ever seen. They used to share my reports and stories and things with each other, the teachers. But math, I struggled to stay out of like special education math. It was never. Words came to me naturally. Numbers were always like, yeah. Sorry, guys. So yeah, I apologize for my math. I say it all the time. I'm not good at math. It's mother effing comment time. Gosh darn it. Yeah, legit sides for anabolics. Side effects? Jeez, yeah. Well, the acne, water retention, hair loss, gyno. Eventually, you could shut down your own production. Long-term, heart, kidney, liver. Yeah. Okay. Namburdar. Hi, I'm 28 years old. My height is 5'10". My body weight is 80 kilograms. I'm lifting since the last 5 years naturally, but now I thought to go on cycle. I am on my first cycle. That's Tessipinate in Boulder. Okay, I guess that was the question. That was just, he was letting us know what he's doing. I tried to get TRT last week, but the doctor refused because my test levels are 720. I mean, that I would, if I was medically, he can't put you on TRT if your levels are well into the high normal range. He can't. So yeah, you don't need TRT. I didn't finish your question. I'm sorry. Third of all, my SHBH was in a very high normal levels. What levels do you recommend? I still don't feel great. That's a good question for the doctor. We're putting up, tomorrow morning. Ask Dr. T, Dr. Testosterone, Dr. George Tuliados. We handle all these type of questions there. And he knows his stuff. He's an MD. He's used steroids many times. He knows all about the blood values and things like this. So if you don't mind, sir, I'll drop that question in the comments under that video. And next week, unless we're doing an interview, we'll get to that question with them. But yeah, no doctor is going to give you testosterone replacement if your test levels are in the high normal range as they sound like they are. So let's see, best cycle for first time. That's 300 or 400 milligrams a test, 300 milligrams a Deca. You're good, kid. But that's a whole other one. Are test boosters worth it? I'm 28, wondering how long to take them for. Personally, I don't think so. Personally, I don't know. Some people have. I hear mixed reviews. Some people swear by them that they do that. Try them, see what they do for you. But if I tell people real tests, you'll know what it does for you. I don't know what these test boosters are necessarily going to do. Cool stuff. I'm 40 years old, 5'7", 160 pounds. I've been on TRT for 7 months using 100 milligrams a week and using an Anthiate 200 milligrams per 1 mil. Huh. Do I need PCT to stop? I have to stop for certain reasons. Thanks. No, in a case like that, I would just taper it down very gradually over weeks until you're down to nothing. That's what I would do. Because PCT is just delaying the inevitable anyway. But if you can taper down your own use over here, it's gonna have the same effect. Let's see. Troy G, thanks. I've had levels as low as 200 5 years ago and 300 a couple years ago. Thanks. I'll ask you. Number 9, I think you're still talking about what year. It's not a question. Sam Hurley, Ron, what are your thoughts on taking prescription meditation, antipsychotics, and using steroids for bodybuilding alongside? I confess I don't know anything about those. Meditation? Oh, you meant medication. Antipsychotics. Yeah, I don't know what the interactions between those are. Sorry, I'm not gonna screw around and give medical advice when I have no idea what I'm talking about, Sam. Sorry. So you wanted to know, Sam, are you doing good? Couldn't send it all in one message. Yeah, I don't. It was broken up over so many messages. I'm not going to go back, and it's going to take a while. Sorry. It's just a lot to go back to. 220 mgs of Dianabol, 200 mgs premium ball once a week for 8 weeks. Yeah, it's a light cycle. You'll see some gains out of that. I doubt you're going to see much, but it's a pretty safe cycle. It's very moderate amounts. And there's nothing wrong with using moderate amounts and getting, just a little bit of results, because chances are you'll be able to keep more of those results than if you're on this heavy blast cycle, and you're certainly not impacting your health as badly either. Jason Simpson, hey Ron, I plan on starting a cycle once the gyms open up. Test an Anthiate and Deca. I'm 40 years old in good health. What's your opinion? Yeah, test and Deca, man. It's like peanut butter and jelly. If you can't grow on test and Deca, you're doing something wrong. Yeah, that's a very, very common. That's probably the oldest. Test and Deca or test and D-ball. These are like the oldest combinations in the history of steroid use, and they wouldn't be still advocated unless they've been delivering results for many, many years for many people. That was Dorian's first cycle. Oh, Dorian's first cycle. Flex J. Oh, was the D-ball? Yeah, Dorian's first cycle. Yeah, I think now that you say that, I remember 20 milligrams of Dianabol a day with 200 premium ball and once a week for 8 weeks. Nobody's going to believe me. Oh, no, he didn't. There's no way Dorian only did that. All right, he's a liar. Dorian's a liar. Because, here's the thing, and this is a whole other topic. People say the pros all lie about how much they use. Well, a lot of them do, I'm sure, because they don't want others going and imitating them, for one thing. But, anyone of you is free to use as much as you want. And I've known so many guys who've used massive amounts of steroids for years and years and years. And very few of them ever looked like anything special. They didn't look like they could stand on a pro stage, not even remotely. You have to have the genetics. You have to. Then you add hard training, good eating, rest, and drugs into that mix, and kaboom, you get these people. Oh boy, this keeps going. You guys have got a lot of questions today. High school 94, I purchased the Anabolic Reference Guide by Bill Phillips. My parents freaked out. Yeah, Bill was one of the pioneers for sure. And his magazine that I was lucky enough to write for in the 90s, Muscle Media 2000, man, they were groundbreaking. They had Dan Duchesne had a column in there. They had drug reviews. They were the first magazine to really put things out there like that. Bill Phillips and Muscle Media 2000. What's my advice for a 20-year-old starting test? That's a very general question. Suki, 2011, lots of love from the UAE, Dubai. Please share with us photos of your peak when you were natural. Well, I can't do that on this video. This is live. So I have a lot of videos. I have a lot of photos on my Instagram, Ron Harris Muscle. And if you see I'm looking super young in some of them, I was natural then. Or if you go to my Facebook page, Ron Harris is a public page. And I have an album called Old School in the photos. And most of those are from before I used steroids. I was a pretty good natural bodybuilder. I wasn't awesome, but I was pretty good. I certainly had a much better V-taper back then, a much smaller waist. Let's see. FlexJ got his book, some 23 similar frames. Says so. Think Google for similar cycle is Dorian first. I always tell everyone, start out very light on your first cycle. Stay moderate for as long as you can. See how you do, because if you don't, you'll never know if you could have done just as well with a little bit as you did on a lot. And over time, you're going to need more and more anyway. Your body's not going to give you the same response to the smaller doses as time goes by. So start out as little as you can, and then you'll eventually be bumping things up like everyone does. Okay, was that it? All right, guys. I've been yapping a long time. This has been, again, almost an hour, so I'm going to wrap up. Thank you all for watching. If you like these videos, please give a subscribe. If you're not already subscribed, please like and share the videos. Please hit the bell thing. I appreciate it very much, guys. And if you have questions that you want me to get to on the next one of these, drop them in there, and I'll get to them next time. Thanks for watching Ask Ron. Talk to you later.